For as many Pokemon that currently exist right now, there are likely as many Pokemon that were created, but scrapped and never made it into an official game. We've covered these Pokemon extensively on the channel, and one type of Pokemon in this group that is especially interesting are those that were meant to be evolutions or pre-evolutions of Pokemon that did make it into the final games. I've made a couple videos on these kinds of Pokemon in the past, both of which did really well, and if you can believe it, there are even more of these cut evolutions that we did not cover in either of those first two videos. So covering some more is exactly what we're going to do today. Let's check it out. One of these Pokemon that I am especially fond of that I honestly wish would have made it into the final games is this pre-evolution of Tangela. First revealed to the public in the leak of Gold and Silver's 1997 Space World demo, this baby Tangela is known as Manja, and was set to evolve into Tangela at level 22. Tangela was not only going to receive this pre-evolution, however, but an evolution as well, which was of course cut, but then was brought back and reworked into Tangrowth in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. While I can admit that a baby Tangela isn't really that necessary, I really do wish that it would have been revived along with Tangrowth, as it has a really cute and charming look to it that, for whatever reason, I find really endearing. Speaking of unnecessary, another unneeded pre-evolution from the Gold and Silver days that was initially set to come to pass is this pre-evolution of Goldeen. Known as Gyapen, this little guy really tried its best to be an official part of the franchise, as it was cut not once, but twice. In addition to being a part of Gold and Silver's beta demo, Gyapen was also found within a beta build of Pokemon Red and Green that was also recently leaked and dissected by the fan preservationist website known as Helix Chamber. It was going to evolve into Goldeen at level 16, and it must have been a favorite of the developers, seeing as how they tried to bring it back in Gen 2. Unfortunately though, it was just not meant to be for little Gyapen. We're not just dealing with pre-evolutions here though, we're also talking evolutions and even split evolutions, such as this Weepinbell evolution that was planned to branch off and be an alternate evolution to Victreebel. Known as Subumito, this interesting looking Pokemon was planned to evolve from Weepinbell with the use of an item known as a Poison Stone, which was also cut from the games, and looks to have been planned as a counterpart to Blossom, who did ultimately make the final games and was also set to evolve with a Poison Stone, just like Subumito. Given that it was one half of a duo with Blossom, it's hard to say why it didn't make the games while Blossom did. Maybe its design was deemed not up to snuff, as it does look kinda weird, or maybe there was another reason. We'll probably never know, but knowing that it exists at all is honestly good enough for me. Another scrapped evolution that this time comes from a Johto Pokemon is this cut evolution for Quillfish. Unlike most of these other ones that we've covered thus far, this evolution definitely does not fall into the unnecessary category, as Quillfish has desperately needed an evolution to stay relevant and unforgotten since it debuted. So to know that one was actually planned makes it all the more baffling as to why it was scrapped. Known as Shibirefugu, it was planned to evolve from Quillfish at level 18, and was pure water type along with Quillfish, who would later become water poison instead. Now, as if Quillfish almost but not getting an evolution wasn't already bad enough, it's pretty likely that this evolution did actually end up making it into the final games, but not as Quillfish's evolution, instead becoming Whiscash from Generation 3. This is currently unconfirmed, but the two Pokemon share very distinct similarities, so it's probable that this is in fact the case, which unfortunately just adds insult to injury for Quillfish. While we currently don't know much about cut Pokemon from the later generations, we do know of some of them, such as Caroblast's original evolution. Courtesy of an interview translation done by Pokemon historian Dr. Lava, Ken Sugimori once stated that Escavalier was originally a bit different, as it was, in his words, meant to be wearing something resembling an armor, but had not initially been made to wear Shelmet's armor, as that concept had not been created yet. While this does sound pretty similar to Escavalier admittedly in terms of description, given that its whole concept is that it's wearing Shelmet's shell, the original non-Shelmet armor design was likely quite different. It probably looked much more similar to Caroblast itself, in fact, without the distinctive armor covering it up. And while that probably wasn't as interesting as it wearing the armor of another Pokemon, the idea of Caroblast having an original alternate evolution is as interesting as it comes. Heading back to the Gen 1 days, we have another case of a pre-evolution that was admittedly a bit unnecessary, and that was this pre-evolution for Zubat. Being discovered in the aforementioned red and green beta leak, it definitely looks like a small little guy, and that's probably because there wasn't really much room for Zubat itself to get any smaller. It's likely that Game Freak realized this themselves, which could be why it was cut, but if it hadn't have been, that would have made the Zubat family a 3-stage line in Generation 1, meaning that Crobat likely wouldn't have existed as a result. I think everyone would prefer Crobat over Baby Zubat, honestly, so this one was definitely for the best, but it certainly makes for a cool part of Pokemon history. Speaking of Pokemon you can find at Mount Moon, Paris was also set to receive a pre-evolution, but this time it wasn't until Gold and Silver, at least as far as we know now. Paris's pre-evolved form was known as Para, super creative name I know, and it was planned to evolve into Paris at level 12. With Generation 2 seeing the introduction of breeding and Pokemon eggs, baby Pokemon were a central theme. But Game Freak was originally planning to go way crazier with the babies than we ultimately saw in the final games. And even though I am a big fan of baby Pokemon, I believe this was ultimately for the best. In the last video on this topic, we talked about an alternate evolution that was originally planned for Wartortle before Blastoise came into the picture. This time, we have a similar situation with Chikorita, as the original form of its evolution, Bayleaf, was so different that it too is essentially a different Pokemon altogether. It doesn't remotely resemble Chikorita or Meganium, who are basically the same as they are in the final games, which is odd, and it's also a lot uglier and not nearly as cool as Bayleaf in my opinion either. However, one remnant of it can likely be seen in the final games, as this original pre-evolution is likely the reason why Meganium has antennae on its head instead of a leaf like Chikorita and the final version of Bayleaf, as Meganium and this cut Pokemon, known as Hanamogura in the 97 Space World demo where it was found, both share this trait. The final design of Bayleaf was definitely the right decision in this instance, but a different form of a starter Pokemon is always a fascinating thing to witness. One Pokemon that many have always envisioned and wanted an evolution for is Pincer. While it has never received an evolution and likely never will now that it has a Mega Evolution, it was originally going to have an evolution in Gold and Silver. This monstrous evolved form of Pincer was known as Purakusu and evolved from Pincer at level 42. To me, it just looks like a more grotesque form of Pincer more than anything, and was likely replaced with Heracross, given Pincer and Heracross's similarities and the fact that they have an established relationship with one another. Given that Heracross is one of the coolest bug types of all time as well, this was probably for the best, although it would have been pretty cool to experience a game where Pincer received an evolution. And last, but certainly not least, is yet another pre-evolution to one of the more popular Pokemon of all time. Growlithe in Pokemon Gold and Silver was originally going to receive a younger sibling, and courtesy of that Space World demo once again, this is what it was going to look like. It was known as Pooty, and was going to evolve into Growlithe at level 13. Now, while I do feel the same about this pre-evolution as I do many of the others, and that is that it is a bit unnecessary for the Growlithe family, and as such, was probably a good thing that it was cut, you can't really help but feel just a little bit bad that a baby Puppo was scrapped from the games. Just being a puppy Pokemon alone would have probably got it over the edge in terms of it being a beloved Pokemon, even if it did prove to be unnecessary. So ultimately, it's unfortunate that little Pooty here didn't make the final games. So there you have it, those are some more cancelled Pokemon evolutions. Let me know which ones are your favorite in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more content. You can also support this channel greatly by listening to my Pokemon remixes on Spotify, and by watching my Pokemon Cardinal series here on YouTube, both of which are massively appreciated. With that said though, I'll be back with another video very soon, and until then, as always, I love you guys, and I will smell you guys later.